My name is Edgar Mannheimer, and this is Kalam, a podcast about the Middle East. The voice you just heard belongs to Renad Qubbaj, the General Director of the Tamer Institute. Tamer is a community education organization founded in the wake of the First Intifada, the great Palestinian non-violent uprising in the late 1980s. If you want to find out more about the First Intifada, you can go back to our fourth, episode, which completely covers it. Anyway, at the time, many forms of education were being blocked by the Israelis as they tried to break the uprising, which was hurting the country's economy. Many schools were closed by the Israeli occupation forces. So, Tamer was founded, along with many other organizations, to spread education among children and to promote reading. Today, it's one of the leading institutions on children and young people's literature in the Arab world. Indeed, it won the prestigious Astrid Lindgren Memorial Award in 2023, one of the world's most prestigious awards when it comes to children and young people's literature, a Swedish award at that. Earlier this year, during my trip to Palestine, I had the pleasure of speaking with Renad Qubbaj in Ramallah on the occupied West Bank. Our conversation takes us from the nature of Palestinian children's literature to the current genocide in Gaza and how this inevitably affects children there. I hope this episode is helpful in understanding the plight of Palestinian children and the books that they read. If you enjoy Kalam Podcast and want to support us, please subscribe to our Patreon for just $3 a month. Go to patreon.com and search for Kalam Podcast. Also, please subscribe and give us a rating in whatever podcast application you're listening to right now. It helps other people find out about us. This episode is part of our Ramallah series, and they're all video recorded. So if you want to watch the full video of Renad Qubbaj and I speaking in the studio that we recorded in Ramallah on the occupied West Bank, then you can do so by heading to youtube.com and search for Kalam Podcast. And please subscribe to us there. We have lots of great video content as well. Now, without further ado, here's Renad Qubbaj. Hello and welcome to this special video recorded series of Kalam Podcast, live from Ramallah in occupied Palestine. I'm sitting in Sirdab studio with Renad Qubbaj. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us on Kalam Podcast.
Thank you for having me, and you are welcome to Palestine.
Thank you so much. So Renad, you are the General Director of Tamer Institute, which is a community educational organization. Could you begin by telling us a little bit about what Tamer Institute is and how it was founded back in the late 80s?
Tamer Institute for Community Education was established in 1989 during the First Intifada, when there was a massive closures of schools, universities, because of the Israeli occupation, procedures and regulations. So the founders of Tamer Institute were part of the popular education movement at that time, and they thought of the importance of having an organization that will help people to equip them with the needed skills in order to compensate for the loss of formal education. So the philosophy of Tamer, based on learning, can take place wherever we are, and wherever we are, and also whatever kind of dialogues that we create, whether it is with individuals or with communities or with any practices, even like when we do it in our daily life, like we need to think about it. And while we are doing it, then we are learning how and so on, all these, even the natural sometimes phenomena and so on. So learning, it can be any place at any time with any individuals. And even our name as Tamer, it's coming from the person who help the palm trees. Actually, Tamer from Tamer, and Tamer is the dates.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Tamer is the person that helps the palm trees to fertilize. So he's like, the person that makes it, the wind goes from one male tree to the female, so the fertilization take place through this help. The same with our organization, we are very much focusing in knowledge transformation, whether from one individual to another, or from one community to another. So our focus is to create kind of these free spaces for people to come together and to speak their mind and discuss issues freely and safely.
I think it's something that has struck me since doing research specifically about the Palestinian issue and the Palestinian cause is that many people cite some kind of statistic that Palestinians are the most educated population in the world. And it is, I mean, of course, this is because of all of these initiatives. Tamer is not the only one. But could you speak about, in general, the phenomenon of the Palestinian population having such a high degree of education?
Maybe because of the political situation that we live under, and the limited resources that we have. So education is becoming a part of our steadfastness and our resilience and our way for the breakthrough to the world and so on. So yes, when you are looking at Palestine, and while you are looking at different other countries in the Arab world, even like, with our cause right now and with what is happening with us, definitely the voice of the Palestinian is reaching out to different places. And this is because of their connection, and because of, they are everywhere, but because also of their education and relations and networking and so on. So in a way, we are lucky, like when you compare it to what is happening in Sudan or in Yemen or in other Arab countries, that the focus on their struggle also towards, the local issues there, it's not heard like, what is happening with us here. And I do look at the occupation, although here it is the Israelis, but definitely also it is existed behind any occupation that is existed in the Arab region in a way or another. But in our case, yes, because the people of Palestine, since the 1948, definitely like the cities were there in terms of cultural cities. So you would find the cinemas, you would find libraries, you would find cafes that they are part of the literature that many Arab established artists would write about it and would speak about it. So maybe part of it is our way to tell the world that we are under occupation, and we are a nation that we are seeking for liberation since years, not only from the 1948, but even from 100 years ago and so on, from the Ottoman and then the British and then the Israeli occupation.
Yeah. So Tamer Institute publishes a lot of children's literature and young adult literature. What would you say distinguishes or characterizes Palestinian children's literature, and how is it different from the greater body of like children's literature around the world?
Mm-hmm. Maybe before I talk about children's literature, because of occupation, books were precious for us, until 1993. Books, and I'm talking about books like, that are talking about our struggle against occupation were so rare. You cannot find them. And if you find them and if you have them in your home, like, you could be accused of a crime by the Israeli occupation. So, as a communities and as a state, we start to have like book fairs just only in the 90s, so it's like, to publish books, it's kind of a celebration for us. And when it comes, of course, to children's literature, it's also kind of a new, in a way, industry, although I don't know if it's an industry, but it is growing sometimes. Like, you can feel like it's up, but from Corona until now, and then the war on Gaza and the genocide, also it went down. So there is this up and down with our relation with books publication and so on, and mainly because of the political situation, because of the economic political situation. But definitely for us as a Tamer Institute, and we are in a way inspired by Dar al-Fatah publishing house. And this publishing house was established in Beirut in 1974, and after the Nakba of 1967. So the BLO decided to have this publishing house that would publish books for children and young adults, not only for Palestinian children, but for the Arab children at large. And it was a very successful experience in terms of their publication. And in a way, the experience of Dar al-Fatah set the ground for children's literature in the Arab world, and moved it from this way of looking at it from educational point of view to the artistic way, and to being part of the literature as the adult literature. So the recognition of the children's literature really came late in the Arab world, after, the 70s and so on. But of course, I must also say that whatever that came in the 70s and afterwards, the Manfaluti and Ahmed Shawqi and many other poets and writers, in a way, they were kind of a classic writers that also part of this foundation.
I definitely want to get back to speaking more about children and young people's literature, young adults' literature, and maybe some of the obstacles that you face in publishing them in different Arab countries. But I think we should also address what's happening in Gaza right now, the genocide that is taking place. I think it's more and more difficult to deny that it is a genocide that is happening in Gaza. And I know that Tamer has always had a big presence in Gaza. So could you speak a little bit about how your organization is managing to even have a presence in Gaza today with these very difficult conditions?
Thank you for this question. Now, Tamer Institute is part of the civil society and is part of the Palestinian social fabric. So we are there. We are existed there as the people of Gaza. And within this genocide time, we lost part of our staff members, we lost part of our youth members, and so on. So through the partnerships that we have, we do continue our work within the shelters, and some of our staff, they are also within these shelters that they are working with. Also we do work with many artists who do facilitation for different workshops with the children's on creative writing or in even producing songs from very, very basic materials that are existed around them. So one of the activities that we have done with the children, that we start with them a workshop on lyrics. So they wrote 2 songs, and one of them is called Gaza Ilna Ilna. Gaza is ours, Gaza is ours. And they talk about how they were forced to leave Gaza and then to flee into the south or the middle. And after they wrote the lyrics, they start to find their materials to produce the music. So they used the canned foods, they used the spoons, they used the cooking pot at the shelters, they used even a painting, sometimes cans and so on. So you will see it at some point. And after, like we have the lyrics, we have the music, and they start to be part of choral to sing it. And you cannot believe, you know, not the interest, but the need.
Yeah.
The need for those children to be part of this recreational activities under these circumstances. Definitely, these activities, the recreational or the psychosocial activity, they are part of giving them a meaning of life.
Yeah.
So instead of staring or the numbness that they live under, you can see how active they are, how happy they are when they start to write and sing and express. So for us, we need to help the children keep their dreams and their hopes, even under these very difficult circumstances. So we do activities with them, not just once with any group of children. We try to stay with them maybe for 10 meetings usually before we move to another group. So right now we have 120 facilitators or expressive arts animators who are working with us in at least also 100 shelters. So whatever we do with them, it is a meaning time. And also we know that we are still under the shock and under the trauma, but definitely those children, in a way, they are aware of their feelings and they share their feelings. It is, kind of a first step towards maybe healing. So like when the war on Gaza will stop, you can see the difference between those children that they were part of these recreational activities and the other children that they do not participate in these activities. It is a very good exercise mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and so on. So, and even the people that they are working with the children, they get kind of an award for them. It is a rewarding experience to be in the community and to help the community. And the production that we receive here in West Bank from Gaza, it is really huge. And maybe this is just reflects the needs for the people, that they need this space to reflect now and not to wait later on. So on a daily basis, we can see these different production that children and young adults would do and would share. One of the initiatives that we also worked with the young people, it's called a tale and a stitch. Because usually the shelter is full of different generation. Like you have very young people, but you have also elderly people. So they come together and they speak about their experience in displacement. What does it mean like to leave home, and what was the most crucial moment that you remember, like when you left. So everyone, of course, have their own memories of the 7th of October and later on. So while we're speaking, so they would, young people, even the male from them, they would also learn to stitch, and everyone would stitch an icon that represent kind of the principle or the focus of that memory or that story that they shared with us. Like one woman would tell us, because it was kind of October, so the olive oil month and so on. So she would, tell, oh my God, that day, I received kind of a full gallon of olive oil from my brother, but I left it there and my home is gone and the oil is gone. I wish I could bring it with us. Also, in terms of terminologies, like with the children, now the terminologies is completely different. It is connected, of course, to the genocide and to the war on Gaza. So, like in the song that we talked about it, Gaza for us, and so on. There's a word that we never heard of, even the people of Gaza, like the Halabat road. The Halabat road, it is the road, like, when the occupation make kind of a corridor that you need to walk through from the north to the south, and in this corridor you cannot turn right, you cannot look left or back. So there's this group of children that they have their father at the end. So while they are walking in that road, they were so scared what would happen to their father, if he's gonna be killed by a sniper, or what would happen to them. So these words are becoming part of their terminology, part of their alphabets, although it was, I don't know how it is created, but it is connected to this kind of deadly corridor that occupation has created for the people to pass from the north to the south.
Yeah. Despite all of the efforts that you're doing and that organizations like Tamer are doing for children in Gaza, do you think that we're looking at a generation of traumatized children?
Now, if we are looking at the international reports of UNICEF, OCHA, and so on, of course, they are talking about 100% of the children of Gaza are traumatized, and we need generations to heal them. That's why also we are very keen to do these very, very tiny, small things with them, just to prepare them for a better future, if possible. Yeah.
So you've been general director of Tamer Institute for almost 20 years.
Yes, it's gonna be in 2 years.
Yeah. And in this time, have you ever been working in a more difficult situation than today?
Mm. I think it's not just for Tamer, but for us as a Palestinians. Things are getting harder and harder year after year. We never witnessed what we are witnessing right now with this, it's not only, the Israeli occupation, but we can find many Western also countries are supporting this occupation. So you can see how also the solidarity movements in universities are dealt with. They are dealing with them in a violent way. So you can feel that the violence in this world is becoming clearer and more vivid. So it's difficult, really, I think, for us year by year, but also maybe for the whole world. We can see how this world is divided.
Yeah. Earlier this year, we've been talking about Gaza, but the difficulties and the oppression and the occupation is obviously very present here in the West Bank. And earlier this year, a kind of high-profile political prisoner, one of the persons who was serving the longest sentence as a political prisoner in an Israeli jail, Walid Daqqa, passed away. He was sick, and finally the Israelis didn't release him, so he died of cancer. But he was an author, and he managed to smuggle out through networks of friends and family his texts, and Tamer Institute published 2 of his books, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
young adult literature.
Yes.
How did that come about?
Yes, we were really lucky that we published 2 books for Walid Daqqa. As you were saying, the manuscripts of these 2 novels have been smuggled from different jails to outside. So, like when we received the manuscripts, they were in his handwritings. And then the start of publishing with us. Now communicating with him to edit, it was, as always, very, very difficult. It's a long process because of timing and when we can reach him and so on. It is kind of challenging for him because of the procedures of jail. They cannot talk on the phone, they cannot have regular visits, only specific people can visit him, and so on. His writings were kind of a writing that very promising for the future of the children. Although he is a prisoner, but in these 2 novels, he was like in his writings, he was celebrating life, and he wants the children of Palestine to celebrate life. One of his books, which is called The Secret of the Olive Oil, was a distinguished book as the best book for Al-Ittisalat Award in 2018. So it was a winner book for that year. And once the occupation or the Israelis knew about this award, they did kind of a punishment for him. They took all his papers, they took all his pens, all his writings, and he was put in solitary confinement for 4 months. No visits, no papers, no books, no pens, and so on, because of that book. So the other book, like when we published it, we tried not to celebrate it, so he will not go through this punishment and so on. So this is, I think, part of the struggle, not only that we can write literature for children. It's not even that possible within this occupation. إنه celebration is not maybe legible for Palestinians.
Renad Qubbaj, I've kept you for far too long, and you've been very generous with your time, and it's getting hot in this studio. But I thought I could just ask maybe one or two more questions. I've seen in previous interviews you've spoken about thought-provoking books and thought-provoking writing, and also how that is that rubs up against certain kinds of radical ideologies. It's difficult to get that out. So could you talk about what is thought-provoking literature, and what kind of obstacles do you face?
Yeah. For us, books are really important for enjoyment, but also it should carry with it, kind of taking the people from their comfort zone. So sometimes within the books that we publish, we try to break the stereotyping of women images in Palestine or in the Arab world.
Yeah.
Many also other issues, and the way also of thinking of whatever is happening around us. So we need books to move us from our comfort zone. So like, with these kind of books, this is where the social change take place.
Yeah.
So books should provoke always, these kind of things that are kind of looks like, white or black, or this is just only the answer. So there's no one answer for anything. There's many answers, as if you have a logic behind your answers, then it's an answer.
Sure.
So we try to encourage children and young adults to be creative, to be critical, and to speak up their minds, and to keep asking questions, and to reach answers through more and more questions.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on Kalam podcast, Renad Qubbaj. I just have one small last question about I know Tamer Institute under your direction won the ALMA prize. This is for Astrid Lindgren, who is one of the biggest, or if not the biggest, Swedish author for children and young adult literature. Do you have a relationship with Astrid Lindgren, and can her characters somehow be relevant in the Palestinian context?
Yes, Astrid Lindgren in 1989 refused to shake hands with the Prime Minister Rabin at that time.
I didn't know that. Wow.
It was during the First Intifada, and at that time, the Prime Minister Rabin used, like with his militant people, break the hands of the children because they are throwing stones.
Yeah, that was the policy.
Yes, it was a policy, just to break the bones of their hands that they throw stones. So she refused to shake hands with him at that time. And she was very much into children's rights. And also she refused actually to receive an award in Germany because also of the history and so on.
Wow.
And she was talking about no violence should any children to be exposed to, and so on. So her writings is very child friendly and very child centered. And I remember one a phrase of Astrid, like, when you are talking about a good book, that means that this good book should put the word in the heart of a child, and the child in the heart of the word. So definitely we as a Tamer share the value of the voice of the children. And that's what we are trying to do while we are working with children, to amplify their voice and to share their voice, and to translate their words not only to Palestinian but all over the world. And we are lucky that we have many of her books in Arabic, whether through our translation or other publishers' translation. And within the children's literature program in Palestine, really we had many of her books. So people would talk about a few of her titles, that it is kind of an inspiration, like, The Two Brothers or something. It is also connected in a way to our life, to the youth life here, and how they struggle against, any violence, and how they can be themselves, and they can overcome any hardship and so on. Yeah.
Renad Qubbaj, General Director of Tamer Institute, thank you so much for taking the time to be a guest with us here on Kalam Podcast.
Thank you for having me.